Step right in. Yeah.
Doing it was never a question. Overnight, I took a competitive market and I became an ally. I'd like to think that every business owner is the same way.
It's life teaching you those invaluable lessons that you look back on it and you reflect upon it and you're like, man, if I wouldn't have gone through that, this way of doing business would have never been developed. Today's guest is an industry trailblazer, Isaiah Pride, co-founder of Wicked Kolors. With over 2 decades in the concrete artistry and innovation, Isaiah has built a reputation for turning ordinary color surfaces into bold statements. From award-winning designs to headlining grabbing expo installations, including a massive concrete skull, his work defines convention and inspires fellow artists nationwide. Isaiah's commitment goes beyond creative technique. He's an advocate for industry unity, community support, and pushing boundaries, whether it's through pioneering overlay systems or mentoring up-and-coming installers, or supporting vital organizations like Dad's House, Inc. and Women's Association of Concrete Professionals. Join us as we delve into Isaiah's journey from his roots at Pride Concrete and Construction to Wicked Kolors' explosive growth, his vision for elevating the decorative concrete industry, and creative risks that have made him a sought-after figure in the commercial, residential, and industrial projects across the country. Let's welcome the one and only Isaiah Pride, where artistry meets innovation and concrete comes alive. What is up, my brother? How are you, man?
Andrew, I appreciate the introduction. It's I'm smiling while you do that. I from a humble perspective, it's always very, I don't want to say disconcerting, that may not be the word, but it's tough to digest when you get an introduction, and I like I said, I try to be very humble. I appreciate the intro. You actually reminded me of several things that I haven't thought about in a long time. So
I love it,
thank
man.
you so much.
Dude,
I appreciate
you
the
have,
opportunity.
absolutely. You've earned it, man. As I started to prepare for this podcast and I knew just from our brief conversations that we've had, I mean, you're a very humble guy. And I'm just like, man, this guy is so gracious. And just the opportunity to be able to sit in front of you and peel back the layers about how you have blown up Wicked Kolors, and just your entire journey through that process. I'm super excited to dig into it, man.
Oh, same. And I appreciate the opportunity. And from the same humble perspective, you're pretty humble with the invitation. And, it's a great opportunity for me and the platform. And I agree. I tend to be a humble guy. So I'm sincerely gracious for the opportunity to be here and be a part of your show.
Well, dude, let's jump into this real quick. So you have been in the industry for roughly 20 years. You had Pride Concrete and Construction. So obviously, that's a lot different from what you're doing today. What was the shift in mindset or the vision that led you to launch Wicked Kolors?
So I'm 40 years old currently, and Pride Concrete and Construction, just the background and the history of it, was a family-owned company. So as my dad founded Pride Concrete and Construction, it still exists today. When I was 14, I dropped out of school, did the homeschooling deal, but went to work full-time with my dad for the family company, focusing primarily on concrete construction at the time, commercial, residential, and industrial applications. So I grew up on the job site with the rough and tumble concrete guys, and
Absolutely.
it's a different breed within the construction industry. They're hardworking guys, and they're getting it sun up to sundown, and it's physically demanding work. So that's how I grew up. And I have 2 brothers as well that grew up in the same family business. And over the years, in working with my dad for Pride Concrete and Construction, obviously we got older, skill sets developed. I had 2 brothers and my dad all within the same geographical area. And as we got older, everybody's appetite for income becomes larger. You got too many pipples eating out of the same bowl,
Yeah.
and So the construction came later, was something that my father always wanted to pursue, was the general contracting. So over time, I had a brief stint out of town. I wasn't always as business oriented or clean cut, I should say. Of
Yeah.
not that I'm real refined now, I tend to be a less than refined
You
individual,
you're
but it
you're a
works for
work
me.
of art. You're a work
Yes,
of art.
sir. Yes, sir. So anyway, over time, we kind of, at my brothers, referencing my brothers and I, we all kind of still contributing to the greater good of the table, but we all kind of pursued our own focus. For a long time, I focused on primarily the flat work, full depth concrete, flat work and finishing. My older brother, for example, pursued more of the solid wall foundations and structural stuff. And my younger brother was fairly adept at both sides of that scope. It's not that my older brother couldn't finish concrete, and later he became quite successful in the decorative world as well, and still is extremely talented. My younger brother, ambidextrous in nature. It's the same way with the work. He kind of fits in wherever he goes, and he's successful on whatever he sets his mind to. So that's a brief background on Pride Concrete and Construction. Um, Wicked Kolors is a crazy story. I've got three children, and my youngest daughter's mom was a painter by trade, commercial painting, residential painting. And so I met her while partnered with my dad, over time, partnerships, it's 50-50 partners with my dad at the time, and my brothers had kind of gone their own separate way. Um, so my youngest daughter's mom has painted her whole life as a commercial painter, and Wicked Kolors was originally founded as an opportunity to support her in business. Started as a painting company, and then I was using Wicked Kolors as a sideline for potential weekend epoxy work. And so Wicked Kolors was founded at a time where my primary source of income was full depth concrete and commercial general contracting, mostly municipality work, state of Tennessee aeronautics, Parks and Rec, school system, that type of thing within the state of
So were
Tennessee
you
and
doing
Southern
a
Kentucky.
lot of bids back then?
Yes, sir.
A lot of
So
RFPs?
yep, yep. So
Yes.
the primary focus, the sweet spot was between that $5 to $10 million single contract amount on commercial work. It seemed to be where my sub prices were really applicable, and my overhead was at a point I could still be very competitive and aggressive on
Yeah.
bid day. So we ran that gambit for 6 or 7 years, I think, me and my dad, and ultimately had a falling out, which tends to happen with family business. We probably should have parted ways long before we did. On the business side, is one thing, and then there's the personal stuff, and
Yeah, and I kind of want to dig into that a little bit later. That's actually one of my questions
absolutely.
because with Wicked, aren't you co-owners with your brother?
Yeah, so Wicked Kolors was founded with my dad originally, and then when we parted ways, it was an extremely toxic situation. We were partnered in multiple companies, real estate, and probably within a 2 or 3 month period, I had liquidated all of my interest in all of the companies I was associated with him on. Walked away from everything on the company side, and we sold a bunch of real estate. I took my money, and Wicked Kolors was the only business entity that I retained on my way out the door, and it was the only legitimate functional company that I could run business through. And it was, like I said, it was extremely toxic with my dad. I have a lot of issues with him still to this
Yeah.
day, although we don't
Don't we
speak.
all?
Absolutely. So yeah, so my in reference to my brother, so Wicked Kolors was already founded. When I parted ways with my dad, was around the time my brother was cleaning up some stuff in his life and looking to get really focused on growth and business and walking a straight line. And I can remember my brother called me around this time, and he said, I need some work, and I need to make some money. And I told him then on that conversation, I remember it like it was yesterday. I said, I'm going my own way, and I have no intention of doing business with dad anymore. And if you want to come with me, then you got to come with me, and there's no turning around. I'm not going this back and forth and this family
Yeah.
integration stuff anymore. And to his credit, he didn't miss a beat. He was like, "I'm with you." And we've been through some hard times, not relationship times with me and him, but company times, financial hardships.
Yeah.
And he's never swayed from telling me that he'd have my back. So, it was later that he became my partner. He's my partner and the vice president of Wicked Kolors, and we have other partnerships and other companies that we're involved in. Uh, so yeah,
But
it's
that's huge.
huge.
So you found your
Absolutely.
rock, right? You found a foundation, you found somebody that you can trust. And it's funny because a lot of partnerships, man, it's tough to navigate, right? And
Absolutely. Yeah.
I do a lot of business consulting, and people always come to me and say, "Hey, I want to bring this partner in." I'm like, "Well, why?" The first question is why. What do they
Yeah.
bring to the table, right? What is it that
100%.
what is it that what's your role that you're going to play, and what role are you expected to play, or
Yep.
they expected to play? You have to have those clear defined roles. So it sounds like
Absolutely.
you found a system with your brother that works across multiple
Yep.
businesses.
Yep. And 100%, I couldn't agree with you more. And one of the biggest problems from my personal humble experience on the partnership side, even when you have that operating agreement and a clear, a lot of business ideas are just that, ideas, right? How much you could spend 10 years building an ideology for an idea that you never get off the ground because you're putting too much time into trying to develop a process, right? Or a big picture plan. At some point, you got to push the plane half built
Yeah, you
off
got to
the, you got
execute.
to go. Right,
You got
right.
to where does the rubber meet the road,
Yes. So
right?
the relationships and the ability to have a partner that can stay fluid, and I think that some I don't like to use the word contradiction or disagreement, right? But
Yeah,
you at least have in a partnership, in my opinion, you have to have somebody that's capable of having a progressive and positive debate. If me and
right,
you are partners, we're going to encounter things that I'm not partnered with you because I think you're stupid, right? I
right,
partnered with you
exactly.
because I think you have something to offer. So the ability to come to a round table and discuss topics in a debate type of scenario, and we actually find the truth or the best choice that can be made between us. And my brother, he's to his. I wouldn't be where I'm at without him and his dedication to everything that I've pursue. And he gets in my corner and he doesn't let me down. But his ability to identify at certain instances, he leaves his ego at the door. He's not confused, and he doesn't have a problem removing himself from an equation and saying, "Hey, this is a conversation you need to have with my brother," right?
Right, right.
So we all know our roles, and I know where to
Yeah.
fit in to compliment him, and he knows when to compliment me, and that's a good thing, and that's a rarity, in my opinion, and experience in business. It's tough to find.
That's a he that so that right there is a gold nugget, right?
Hmm.
So we talked about humility. We talked about understanding your role. We talked about understanding how to bow out when you don't need to be a part of that equation. And I mean, all of that is absolutely essential for building a great partnership and building a great business, because there in business there is adversity. Like you said, you're going to put together everything on paper and everything looks freaking amazing on paper, but then you go out there and you're like, life hits you and you're like, oh crap, right?
100%.
So man, this is absolutely amazing. So let's dig into this. I want to go back again to Wicked, where you said, okay, there's something bigger than decorative concrete, right? So, I mean, there's decorative concrete, you got flake, you've got epoxy, but then we've got what you do, right? Talk to us about that evolution, man.
So you're referring to what they would coin mixed media applications, and it's a
Yes.
combination of uh, multiple systems that are used all throughout the industry. And I'll put a pin in that just to clarify. So my background started with decorative concrete, full depth concrete applications. Moving into the concrete restoration and coatings world, which is Wicked Kolors, our primary focus is coatings and concrete restoration. That transition, in addition to the evolution of getting older, conflict with my dad, separation from family business, one of the biggest things that I found and what was enticing to me as a business owner and looking to expand and create long-term security, which I'm sure we'll touch on this several times throughout the end of the show, is the security to me is a primary motivating factor more than financial, right? So the security of tomorrow being the same as today. So anyway, the looking at the evolution and the growth from full depth concrete pursuit to coatings primarily was marketing originally, right? And
Yeah.
saturation of an industry. You look at the residential concrete construction industry in any city throughout the country, and you have an extensive surplus of forces who are pursuing that as a primary scope, which through no fault of anybody, it tends to drive the value of service down. It tends to create a lot of things that I wanted to get away from. I don't want to compete with every concrete guy who's got a floor machine in the back of his truck and he's a finisher, right? No insurance, no legitimate business, no workers' comp. So on the concrete and restoration side, one of the most enticing things that I knew I had the ability to do that, right? I could perform the work, the service,
Absolutely.
doing it was never a question, but the value add of having a historical background within a full depth concrete industry within a certain area, I knew everybody from the concrete plants to guys who didn't like me because I was their competitor, guys I didn't like because they were my competitor. And overnight, I took a competitive market and I became an ally. Now
Mm,
I am a resource for all of my competitors. Now, not only am I selling and pursuing jobs direct to a client, now I can support every local concrete guy around. You had a hot load. There's a deficiency in the concrete you poured. Holler at me. I'll give you a discount on fixing it because you're a concrete guy.
wow.
So the networking ability to capitalize on resources I already had in my Rolodex was instantaneous, and that was a primary driving factor in not only the decision to pursue concrete restoration as a primary scope, but some credit to the explosiveness in which I was able to expand, at least initially at that time.
That's wonderful. So you actually took a look at the industry and said, "All right, industry's kind of moving in a direction that I don't want to even partake in," right?
100%.
And so
Yep.
you found a way to create an alliance with all of your competitors, right?
Yes. Yes,
Other
sir.
companies out there, and so uh, obviously, you had to get the word out, and you also had to establish credibility, not so much in the fact that everyone knew that you knew what you were doing. I mean, you were concrete through and through, from the hardscape beginnings to the finishing, etc. But there's probably a trust that you had to gain from some of these competitors. There's like, okay, how do I know that you're not going to take my client? You know,
Yep. 100%.
what
So
did that look like?
it was difficult at the beginning, for a lot of reasons, but up to and including in Clarksville, Tennessee at the time, we're talking years ago now. Cementitious overlays and coatings were obviously around for a long time. Some of these systems have been utilized in industrial applications for 40, 50 years. It's not a new system. Um, in a residential market, and those have been used in industrial applications for a long time. On the residential side, within the geographical area, Clarksville, Tennessee, and Southern Kentucky, Hopkinsville, Kentucky, within this immediate area, the name and reputation for coatings and overlays in a residential market were non-existent. Well, I shouldn't say it. It's like bad credit, right? It
Right,
wasn't no credit, it was bad credit. So
right,
initially it was extremely difficult uh gaining a foothold and gaining momentum because every third client that you're trying to sell a system to, they know about overlays, but what they know about it is bad. It's
right,
the Lowe's or Home Depot, bottom of the barrel overlay, improper prep, not a legitimate system, but over time it had created a really bad name in the area. So what I did, some of it was intentional, some of it was just a means of, when you're under the gun, and at the time you have to keep in mind, I walked away from a legitimate, serious, humble income, and I
yeah,
say that humbly. I was making really, really, really good money in the general contracting, and I forfeited all of that in efforts to just remove myself from the equation with my dad.
Yeah.
So I was under the gun, at the time. I can remember having a conversation with my youngest daughter's mom, who I'm no longer with now, but at the time I was with her, and I can remember saying, I'm doing the math, I'm looking at my bills, I'm looking at the mortgage, I'm running through these scenarios, and I'm like, I can remember crying, legitimately
Yeah, it's real
crying.
life, man. It's life
100%.
hitting you in the face.
Yup. So I'm trying to figure I'm under the gun and it feel like I'm in a corner, like I have no choice but to make it work to mitigate some of the negative name. I was doing jobs for bottom of the barrel prices, right? But I was doing high quality jobs for bottom of the barrel prices. I was going all the extra mile on quality systems, right? It's sometimes it's the little things. Sometimes it's the algorithms and the way you manage your on-site operations. If your guys smoke, we keep a bucket there. No cigarettes in the yard. I'm posting a photo on Facebook, telling the client, hey, we're done. I'm about to invoice you a final invoice. Let's do a walk around. All the little things. I'm replacing the grass. I'm kicking the dirt up to the side of the forms. I'm rolling up their hose that was laying in a bundle when I got there. It wasn't my responsibility. I roll it up and I hang it on the hook, right? So everything looks better than it did when I arrived. I
That's a
went
gold nugget right there, man. I mean,
Yep,
you talked about not only going to a property, someone's property, taking care of the property, making sure that the guys that are on the job are leaving a good impression and not embarrassing you. You also talked about taking a hit on pay because you were starting out. You were trying to establish your credibility, your reputation. So you did more, you delivered more value than what the person actually paid for, right? and
100%,
and
yeah,
and and that's probably how you started to scale so quickly. And you also
absolutely,
also one other nugget that I want the audience to pay attention to is you were talking about SOPs. You were talking about processes that you were educating your contractors with, right? By making sure that the little details were taken care of and you were establishing a precedent for that first job that would be carried over into the other jobs. And here's
100%,
what's interesting about you is you had a cheat code. Could you have built other successful businesses so
yeah,
you understood what the not just the job getting done, but again, we focus on being kind, right? What's that extra mile? It's not about just delivering the service. It's about delivering an expectation, right? For that client, the overall experience,
yes,
right?
absolutely,
The
100%,
overall experience is
yep.
what that customer has, right?
Absolutely. It's an ideology that regardless of what you're doing and you reference other companies and building those and SOPs, I'm a firm, avid believer in systems and processes. And whether it be a system and process and how you maintain your team's workspace, whether it be the office, whether it be a trailer, what is the process for organizing and maintaining your equipment at a high level of functionality? The minute, for example, you're losing equipment, you got equipment down, you're hemorrhaging money. So systems and processes across the board, from client interactions, how we estimate, what is our standard. I'm a firm, avid believer and supporter in that. But to more to your point, I'm getting ahead of myself. Um, the experience, selling an experience and value, and trying to at the time, and you got to keep in mind, at the time I was not focused on some rapid expansion nationally with Wicked Colors.
Right.
All
You're
I
trying to
was
make money. You're trying to pay the bills.
100%, yes, 100%, and I was simply just trying to supplement what I had sacrificed on one side. And I had money behind me at the time, and I wasn't financially hurting, but
Yeah.
I can remember days counting change to put gas in the truck. I can remember
100%. I mean, just because you have a nest egg over here doesn't mean you want to
100
touch it.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And there's nothing scarier, and from a humble perspective, I'm nowhere near where I want to be, although my values and sense of success has changed over the years as I get older.
Right.
Um, I'm not financially where I want to be, but I do recognize that I'm a lot farther ahead than I have ever been in my life.
Yeah.
And it's not so much, it touches on the security aspect of it. It's not so much that I have a financial goal necessarily in mind. It's
It's a
security.
lifestyle goal.
It's a
It's a
lifestyle goal.
lifestyle goal, right?
100%. Yep.
Yeah, that's
So
absolutely right.
and I know I'm getting long-winded, but it's touching on what you were describing, selling value and experience. And when I was in this crunch and I felt like I was in the corner and I knew that I just needed to make this work, and I believed wholeheartedly that the concrete restoration, there was a void, there was a huge void because all you have is subpar work
Right,
historically. All
right.
and you know, and the collaboratory mindset, the hybrid ideology of collaboratory business dealings has served me so well over the past 10 years. Um so focusing on the value and the experience, you know, I did it initially just to pay my bills, and it has continued to evolve, and I found a real success in that, and we continue to implement that throughout everything we do in multiple companies. So it's something I definitely took with me.
Absolutely. And so, I mean, obviously, you had to understand, like, SOPs help you to scale, it helps you to deliver quality. It McDonaldizes the process, right? Where did you learn that skill set?
I think it's a good fair dose of maybe logic, maybe, what seems like the logical solution, trial and error,
Yeah,
paying, you know, I'd say 90%, if not more, and I would like to think if we weren't on this call, if I was having this conversation offline, I would say I'd like to think that every business owner is the same way. You know, I pay for every mistake, I pay for every lesson, just like most business owners, and I think that I had a real opportunity early on in a lot of situations that I paid really big for lessons, and I think that, trial by fire, I think that at
yeah,
the time, it was very daunting, it was very, "Man, this is costing me a lot of money." I learned lessons the hard way, but looking back, I wouldn't trade those things for anything because sitting where I am now, those are the most valuable resources, and you identify the systems and processes and the value in these things, and it it transcends, in my opinion, systems and processes are so important. It transcends how you function your company. You know, do you have a quote unquote Bible, so to speak, you know, if that
yeah,
term doesn't offend somebody, of how this company runs, right? The m-
absolutely.
the more you scale, the more level of responsibility you take as the captain of your company. You're the responsible party, and you know, right down to some employees, you have to decide what they're doing tomorrow. You have to check the weather. You have all these variables. It's your job to make sure the boat stays on the road. As you scale, you have director of business development. You have a director of operations who have subordinates, and they have juniors. Now you have this
Yeah,
level of responsibility you have as the captain of your boat transcends the average. Now you have somebody else that you pay who's keeping up with the weather, or you know, all these
yeah,
responsibilities. But ultimately, they are all you, right?
yeah,
So as you expand the importance of the SOPs, not only for quality of function within the workplace or internal culture, you know, client interactions, but the long term, the security and the continuation of life after a
yeah.
company. If I found as you scale, you know, you're building something that and I might be getting ahead of you. I don't know. So
No,
it's
man, this is
easy
this
to
is
let
good
things go.
stuff.
You ask good
This is good
questions that
stuff.
kind of evolve. So as you start to scale, in my personal opinion and experience, I am very much all the time coming at every equation or decision I make from the perspective of responsibility, financial burden of responsibility. I don't say that negatively, but I don't say that lightly either. I exercise the way that I do business, whether it's a partner that I have, whether it's a direct employee, whether it's a subcontractor. If I have a burden of responsibility to you. I have my employees, I have a burden to my employees to keep them busy in the winter, whatever that means. Not only are they dependent on me for a paycheck, but their children, their mortgage, there's a lot of burden there. So I think that the continuation of life and structuring a business growth, especially when you're expanding rapidly, is having caveats that cover to entertain the what if. What if Andrew can't show up tomorrow? What if you're sick? God forbid it's something worse, right? So I have all these tangible responsibilities. Now you say, hey, I recognize as a CEO that if I want an average employee, if I don't want to say average, say you cultivate a culture and a lifestyle and your leadership and your ethic tends to drive the one percenter of the workforce to you. Those are the
Right.
employees. And when I say one percenter, I'm not necessarily saying skills. I'm talking
Right.
about enthusiasm, right?
Yeah.
Dedication,
100%.
passion,
Yes.
enthusiasm.
Yes.
People in my experience that have those, they're highly driven, they're highly passionate, whether they're A type or B type, right? B type personalities. We can touch on my thoughts on the value in both. Um, a lot of those, in those instances, people want to get behind somebody they know thinks about the future. If I'm not going to be here tomorrow, my systems are going to continue to operate and everybody still has a job. I don't want a top performer who works for me. If you're a top performer working for me, and your focus is business development, I don't want you worrying about your daycare, your oil change. If I can figure out a way to get your oil change for you while you're at the office and clunking away on selling me jobs, it's a small price to pay to look at how, hey, I'll have your car picked up, go get the oil change and bring it back. You know, the systems and processes which continue that ideology, whether or not you're involved for any one reason or another. As a business owner, the end goal is to remove yourself from an equation that still continues to derive you money so you can move on with your whether that looks like, hey, I'm going to slow down and enjoy time with the kids and my wife, or you're going to move on to the next venture and try to scale that as quickly as possible. We all have end goals and a vision, but the systems and processes are fundamentally the primary thing, in my opinion, that equates to success or non-success.
Yeah. So you are really putting together a master session here. So, one of my mentors, John Maxwell, he talks about failing forward, right? And what failing forward is exactly what you talked about, right? It's the school of hard knocks. It's life teaching you, those invaluable lessons that while you're in the middle of it, you're like, what the hell?
Yeah,
But then
100%.
you're like, you look back on it and you reflect upon it and you're like, man, if I wouldn't have gone through that, this process or this way of doing business would have never been developed. The other thing
100%.
that you touched upon is, bringing in that supporting staff, bringing in the supporting team that you've helped to develop SOPs for, and you hold them accountable. So that brings me to another question. How do you hold your team accountable? Right? How do you measure success for them? Do they have goals and structures that they're, working towards? Tell us a little bit about working in your organization. Let's talk about, that A type, B type, or what have you, from your middle management all the way down to, the guy who's out there in the field.
Yeah, 100%. It's a great question. Um, I mean, from my perspective, I think you touch on a lot of good points, and it's not a simple answer. I guess I'm
Of
preluding.
course not.
I may get long-winded.
That's all
So
right.
it you talk about structure, right, or hierarchy, A type, B type personalities, and personalities being the primary topic for a moment. You have interactions within a team dynamic, right? You as the captain, you're the quarterback, you're the captain of the ship, whatever you want to phrase it. It's not I don't promote a culture or a lifestyle or a work environment which puts me above anyone else. Wicked Kolors, for example, I'm the CEO and president of Wicked Kolors. I wear the same camouflage cargo shorts today that I have worn for the last 10 years because I maintain an ideology throughout my businesses that I am the same humble person. I don't put myself above my employees. I am looking to pursue long-term relationships with passionate people. We refrain from employee employer conversations. I don't run or manage. At the end of the day, the responsibility always, in my opinion, ultimately goes one way. You're at the top of the pile in this hierarchy because you are the president or the CEO. It is my responsibility regardless of who made the mistake, right? From the outside perspective, I give credit and I take the blame as a general rule. In doing so, it promotes the right person who is passionate and dedicated. They will integrate the same ideology into their responsibility within this equation. I don't run a traditional dictatorship hierarchy or a pyramid hierarchy. I'm the president, my brother's the vice president. I have a director of operations, but when we sit down at a table, there's not a head of the table. We are all at a round table, and I have a responsibility to make decisions that's gonna to steer this boat, but you have a responsibility to cover your angle. We're just all facing outwards on my team. You know, you're shooting that direction, I'm shooting this direction. I'm gonna grab some meat, some money, I'm bringing it back to the table, and we're gonna figure out how we're all okay at the end of the day. Um, as that translates, that ideology and how it translates into systems and processes, the one of the biggest things that I've experienced is as a from a humble perspective, as a forward thinker, you know, I spend my entire life 24/7. I'm thinking about an angle. Same way I walk into a restaurant to have dinner with my girlfriend and my kids. I'm looking at the floor. I'm looking at, hey, how can I talk to who owns this place? Let me figure out how I can sell a job. And it's just how I am, you know. Um, the that forward thinking, and business owners tend to be that way in some form or fashion. You're constantly on the ball. You're thinking about innovative practices.
Yeah.
One of the biggest obstacles that I've found, even with a top performing team, um, is that you have the human factor. Everybody learns different, and you have to communicate with everybody differently. I have top salute to my team on multiple companies, multiple fronts. I feel like I have really been lucky to acquire and amass the top performers that I do. Within their scope of work and what I require of them, they give me 110%. When typically, if you want to get 100% from your employee, you would have to give 200, right? So if I
Right.
want 80%, I got to give 110. My team is really, really good at maximizing their potential on their own side. But in regards to systems and processes and the development of them, one of the hardest things for me to do was take my ideas and implement it. I could write it on a piece of paper. I could map this out. I've written more SOPs, you know, and they're constantly evolving. Yeah, an SOP
Right.
isn't
It's
a
a
set
it's
in
a
stone.
it's a living and breathing
Yeah,
animal.
absolutely. Your most recent SOP is only as good as when it's just a mile marker. Hey, I'm going to pin it right here because I know historically this is everything I've created to date, and we're going to use that as the standard until I update it. Right? I used that ideology for a long time, and I spent a lot of time trying to develop systems that would work, that I thought were a good idea. Then implementing them is a whole other animal. You know, you can have an idea, you can have a system, but trying to get even a top performing team they want to do the right thing by you and they want to perform. It's difficult to implement it, right? As a standard, as a habit, because every time you revise an SOP, now you have to build new habits. They have to
Right.
relearn, right?
Right.
So I realized that one of the inhibitors I had was me in my presentation. I got extremely frustrated for years because I have a good team. I asked myself, I got a good team. It's like people, you know, they're not a 5 day a week, 7 day a week team. You know, if you
Yeah.
send Wicked Kolors, for example, will respond at 11 o'clock at night, right? If we're in a bind, I'm talking everybody from the office to the field. Everybody gets with the business when it's required to get with the business, and they don't ever ask questions.
And what you're
Um,
talking about here, that's culture, right?
that's
So
100%.
so you brought in the right people that fit into the culture and the expectation of Wicked.
Yep. So 100%. So, and I wanted to touch on that because in my opinion, it's so applicable and viable for thought in regards to SOPs, because I struggled with implementing what I thought were good ideas for a long time due to the implementation. I couldn't get it to stick. I couldn't get it to, and I found myself running around reminding everybody like, hey, this is what we're supposed to be doing and what we're supposed to be doing. One of the biggest things that helped me with that is I started allowing everybody to create their own SOPs, right?
Huge.
And they
Yeah.
maintain a living SOP. So instead of me documenting it, I do document it and I file it away, and this is my baseline standard. And now everybody within their department has a snippet or a screenshot of their current SOP. They get morning reminders of it. I utilize Google. I use reoccurring calendar events. I use a lot of notifications. Everybody on my team gets a email agenda every single morning that lists out, hey, this is what we got on the calendar today, and they have a reminder to consult their SOP.
I
Not
hope
only
you're not sending those emails, are you?
no, it's all automated processes. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yeah, it'd be daunting. It would
That's
be
a lot of
daunting,
work, but that's
but
amazing, man. I mean,
yeah,
so you've got communication. I want to make sure that the audience is keeping up because a lot of this is extremely high level, right? This comes from a person who's developed a very successful business and understands the power of processes, also understands the power of communication, but also understands the power of communicating with his team at the level that they're at, right? So, you know, as business owners, like you said, we're consistently thinking of things that people don't think about. You walk in, you're looking at the floor, you're like, okay, who did this? Oh, you see a process. Someone may have, did an amazing thing while they were waiting on you. You're like, man, that seems like that was trained or what have you. So, these processes, these automations, you've got them in the calendar. They are getting emails to let them know about their day-to-day operations. That's
yep.
huge.
So,
Continue. I just want to take a break so everyone
I'm glad.
can catch up.
Yeah, I'm glad you did. So, but that also it also transcends into the development side of an SOP. Because what initially, when we first, I want to say we, because my team is actively involved, and someone has an idea, we're like, man, that's a great idea. Why haven't we already done that? So I don't want to sit here and take the credit as like I'm this mastermind. I I give weight to opinions of my entire team, and it's a collective growth. It's a collective build. I have people that I'm extremely lucky and count myself very, very lucky to have employees that have been with me for a long time, and they've contributed to building these systems and processes. But what I was touching on is it with with when we implemented the reoccurring calendar events, right, for a living, breathing SOP, and we separated them into our department heads, right? So now you have business development and they have an SOP, right down to the office assistant has a right down to Google and marketing, right down to Google review pursuit. We have everything into divisions that has an SOP. This does a couple things for, in my opinion, as a business owner and as a captain of my team. Now I no longer build out my SOP at the top of this ladder and I disseminate it. Now our team continues to build their SOP in real time, right?
Yeah.
So now what do we do? And people regardless have some ability to learn better with kinetic learning, whether it's hands-on, whether it's digital. You're going to learn by doing it, right? It's, in my opinion and my experience, I get much better results when someone on my team feels like it's their idea, right?
Exactly.
So
Exactly.
now we continue to build out these SOPs. I don't have to do it as a CEO. My director of business development is continuing to build out that department's SOP within that calendar invite. Once a quarter, I can compile all the revisions and I create it into the master SOP. And at any given time, we have these systems and processes that are continuing being built. But now you have ownership that you created. Now that department is creating the SOP based off of necessity. What do we need? What roadblocks have we encountered that require an adjustment to the SOP, or what negative feedback are we getting? Are we not getting the sales results? Are we not getting, do we have difficulty communicating with our clients? What is the bottleneck? What is the solution or the idea of solution that may fix it? We implement that as an SOP change, and then we track or monitor the analytics or the results of that over an extended period of time and continue
Right.
to make adjustments.
Yeah.
So the ownership of it, now your team has the ownership, and they're in their heart and their passions, they're developing the system that is breeding success. So I think it's a milestone worth noting for people who may be struggling with the same thing.
Absolutely. So again, like I said, this is very high level um, for anyone who's trying to build a team, and all of this is amazing gold nuggets. And I could talk to you about this all day. But what I would like to do is kind of shift channels a little bit and talk about, in the beginning, before you had this massive team, it was just you and your brother, going after this bad boy. There's a lot of kind of one man shows out there that are trying to get their footing and trying to establish themselves. What kind of advice would you give someone who is starting this journey out? They may be into it for a couple of years. They've got their footing with regards to the process, but they're just not sure how to scale, not sure what to do next. What's some advice that they could get from you or seek from you?
And it touches on the passions that you have as a business owner and you're trying to get something off the ground. A lot of there's a lot of people out there that have the desire and the want, and they're not sure. Very quickly when they start to become successful in sales, they hit a ceiling because there's only one of them, right? So you can only be in so many places at the same time. And for years, even when I was younger, I used to write everything down. I keep all these lists. I would rewrite my list. I'd get 10 lists. I've got so many lists, I have to make a list of my lists, right? It just got so crazy trying to manage everything myself. It's crazy to say it, but I think that if I could pick one thing in such a short show, I would Google Business Suite. You have a lot of people out here that have the ability and they're providing quality of service, but they're not even capitalizing on the digital era. It's 2025, something
Yeah,
as simple as a business Google Suite. Number one, it gives you a legitimate domain. You're not interacting
yeah.
with your client with a um uh 50 sack blue 6 at gmail.com. You have a
Right,
legitimate
exactly.
company, but also there's so
Whose
many.
email did you just give?
Yeah, right. You know what I'm talking about.
I do.
But there's so many apps that streamline processes. The ability to run your life on a calendar. I think it's hugely important. Shared tasks, creative spaces with your team, email agendas that you can set up from your calendar, and transcends into your personal. As a business owner, I would like to think more, at least from my perspective. I don't want to speak for anybody else ever, but there's really a very blurred line between personal and business. And I operate as a 24-hour a day shop, open 7 days a week. If I'm your partner, I have a responsibility to you. If you're employed to me or employed by me, I have a responsibility to you. If I'm doing a job and I hold a contract with you, that's a responsibility. And I don't. So finding that sweet spot with your systems and processes, and I'm answering your question. Someone starting out, they usually have a lot of drive and passion, and they have what it takes to get there. They become overrun because they still have to be a dad. They still have to be a quality. They will still want a quality relationship with their spouse. They have a good spouse that's behind them, and like, I know this is going to be hard. I know it's going to be hard. Very few people, it takes a different breed to ride that out for years on end, and I've experienced that. I've lost relationships and gone through custody disputes in pursuing this. And, I come to the table, and when I say I'm going to be there, I'm there regardless of what's happening, and traveling the country and 3 weeks on the road and 1 week at home. It's taxing. So if I could make one recommendation, even if you are, for example, if you are a business owner, you are the boss, the CEO. You're also the lead component in a service-based company, we'll say. For example, say you're the person doing the install, or we'll keep it to coatings. You're the person, the primary leadership on site doing the install. Say your wife does the QuickBooks. She does QuickBooks for you. You operate out of your garage or a small shop. Google Business Suite takes you so far, even with a one-man army. Google Sheets, whether it be automatically tracking invoices, follow-ups with customers, long-term maintenance agreements, long-term maintenance reminders. A lot of small businesses, it takes them years to get to the point that they start to harvest all of the value from past relationships, past projects, past clients, right? And me and my brother joke about it all the time because we have to remind ourselves still, even today, you'll find yourself in this scramble mode, and I'm so hyper focused that I'm constantly looking for this 20-pound nugget of gold, right? I know I got a good
Right.
idea. This is a great service. I know we got value. I know we're hitting the mark. My prices are competitive. I can do this. I can do this. And then you get to a point where I'm focusing on this huge nugget of gold all the time, and I lose sight of all of the value of the little crumbs of gold I'm shoveling out of the hole while I'm in search of this large nugget.
Yeah.
And so I think that the primary point that I'm trying to make there is streamlining your processes. If you're this small company, just simply utilizing something as simple and basic as a Google Business Suite can free up your time, free up your
It's funny.
personal time.
You mentioned that, and, it's interesting because I feel like a lot of times, and here I say I feel, I hate when people say I feel, but I'm gonna go with that. I feel like a lot of times when people are starting their business, they wanna hold on to their money so tightly. Google Business Suite, let's say it costs you, I don't know, $20 a month.
Yeah,
Oh my gosh. You get
yeah,
Google Sheets, you get Google
yeah,
Docs, you get a professional domain, right? And you just come off just so much more. I pitch that a lot to new customers, and they're like, "Oh no, I'll just keep my Gmail."
yep, yep,
Okay. That
yep,
just lets me know how serious you are about really growing your business to a level,
yep,
right?
yep,
It's
yep,
it so and how you do it, one thing is how you do everything. So I mean, you got to let a little of it go so that you can grow. You got to water, the pasture there. You got to
yep,
water your garden,
yep.
right? And so I
No,
think that that's a great place to start.
absolutely, and it does. It transcends across every business decision, and the way that you're making decisions from how much you pay in your accounting. Usually that's a direct translation in how much you're going to pay in taxes as a business owner. And sometimes it's difficult for people to wrap their head around the fact that, yeah, this accounting company costs me so much money every year. They fail to realize that technically you're paying that bill with what they're saving you in taxes, right?
Exactly.
uh,
100%.
Marketing, for example, and to touch on huge support and thanks to you for all you've done for me and Wicked Colors on the marketing side.
Thanks,
I
brother.
know it's not the topic of this, but you deserve a shout out there as well. Um,
Appreciate it.
cost of marketing, it to goes hand in hand with what you said. The difficulty in letting go of money, um, and a bottleneck of, hey, I got to spend this money, but it's really the opportunity. And it's funny you bring that up because I think it's worth talking about. Over the years, I found, and it's funny, in anticipation of this show, I was thinking to myself this morning about some of these topics, and I reminded myself that today I'm pretty stressed out. We got a lot of stuff going on, and a lot of it's positive things, but
I hear your
nonetheless, I get.
phone dinging every 5
Yeah.
minutes, so
Oh, can you hear it dinging? I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
no,
I
that's
didn't
okay.
realize that.
I
Um,
expect I expect it to ding. That's
yeah.
beautiful.
So, but my point is that I had to remind myself this morning that at times that I've identified the highest level of success in all of my companies and me personally, it's when I could remove myself from my money. Doesn't mean I don't care about it. It doesn't mean that that's not a focus. It most definitely is. But when we're talking Wicked Colors and explosive expansion, but kind of driving it back to that home point, um, a lot of that in Clarksville, Tennessee, the negative outlook that was found within the area, and knowing that I had to make it work, I told myself a long time ago that I couldn't worry about the money, right? That the money would come as a byproduct to quality service, to innovative ideas. So, and now we're making full circle. This is so cool. We had talked about how it happened, and I said I was doing jobs for way cheaper and giving higher quality service, for a lower price point, trying to drive my name, trying to build a brand, trying to let people know that I'm going to do what I say I'm going to do, even if it costs me money. And so at the time, and then, within the algorithm of the coatings industry itself, yeah, I identified very quickly that there's a lot of quality installers out here. And on the extreme decorative side, you have guys like Brian Bourne with Keys Designer Coatings. and a very good friend of mine, big shout out to Brian. You have other guys, innovators of the industry, you know, you Rebecca Fiscardo, Emil Guerra, Bob Harris, obviously, Ben Bass. There's a lot of people out there doing quality, innovative things. And I always wanted to be at that level. I wanted to separate myself and my brand from, when I say average, I'm not taking anything from them. You know, it's a high skill set job to install even what people would say simple or standard installs. Big shout out to the guys that are standing behind a grinder all day, every day, and polishing a floor to make it look like glass. That's hard work.
100%. That's
There's
very
chem-
hard work.
yep, chemistry. There's a lot involved into quality systems. But I knew, you know, we talk about brand building and development and how you separate yourself as a company. It's never been difficult for me, you know, physical appearance wise, to separate myself. I come across as way less refined. I got tattoos on my face, you know, I harnessed that. I capitalized on it. I know what makes me different in a crowd. Um, so choosing to capitalize on that, choosing to capitalize on the background in artistry, right? I've been a painter my whole life. Um, I decided a long time ago and early on with Wicked Kolors that I wanted to pursue work that set me apart. And in the early days, I was doing extremely custom jobs and making zero money. You know, one of the
Yeah.
first mixed media jobs, that extreme custom stuff that you referenced at the beginning of the show, one of the first ones that got any real notoriety and was probably the driving force that accelerated my reputation or people knowing my company, was a job in Clarksville, Tennessee, and I gave it to a contractor. He was building out his space, and I said, "Man, just let me do what I want to do, and I'll hook you up on the price." So I did this lava floor with all this floating wood plank, and when I balanced the job, the job costing on it, I had $600 left after paying for everything, not including my time. I made $600 from my time over a 7-day period. Didn't cover any overhead. I gave the job away for break even, you know, less than break even. And I can remember stopping to take pictures of the job, and I posted it on social media at maybe 4:30 in the morning, right? And I was on my way to another job. I just was getting it off my plate. It was part of my habit. I'm going to post every job, and so
Right.
I'm cropping the photos so it looks good, you know. And I make my post, and I drive an hour and 15 minutes to the next job. And by the time I'm pulling in, I got like 2 or 3 different people calling, and they're like, "Man, have you seen your Facebook? Your Wicked Colors page is blowing up." And it was like in a short period of time, social media had just taken my floor and wham, it
Right.
took off. And then, you know, that was the start. If I could pick one pivotal moment, it was that floor that I gave away for nothing. It cost me money to do, but dude, it accelerated a
Okay. So
notoriety.
it cost you money, but how much value did that bring?
You can't calculate it. You can't
100%.
calculate it. The value of opportunity, which I derived from that, um, is incalculable, you know. And
Yeah.
it's funny that we bring that up because an ideology of expansion, and we're talking about not focusing on the money. I find a high level success, and it's served me well. To I even say it to my team all the time that we don't do business in money, we do business in opportunity. You know,
Right.
what is the opportunity, and that's what I do business in. And I don't look at the dollars spent as much as what opportunity is it going to provide. And when we use that ideology, it takes the money scenario out of the equation, and it keeps me focused more on building, which is
Yeah.
where I thrive. I like to build. I
Yeah.
like to build a company. I like to all of that's where I get a sense of satisfaction.
And you
So
have
it's
that passion, but I mean, dude, more golden nuggets like crazy, but I want to hone in on one, and that's the fact that you developed a habit of posting your work on social media.
100%. Yeah. Yeah. I think it's
I think
critical.
social so I try and tell business owners all the time, "Bro, you're on a job, take a picture, do a video." People like to see the work. They like to see the quality. They like to see real stuff. And they're like, "Oh, you know, I'm boring and I'm not that way." But can you talk to the people, please?
It,
Tell them the what habit should they form to get good at this process?
and it's another great topic. I think you and I have had these conversations before about unrelated things at the time. It's funny that
Yes.
it's an integration. You know, it's it may be unusual, but it's the truth. For the first 3 years that Wicked Colors was alive, I had zero marketing expense, right? It was all organic. It was manually posting stuff on social media. It was hitting every buy, sell, and trade site. Social media was a huge contributor to building a brand initially, and it was only later on with the expansions and conversations we've had with your marketing company, and um it was only later that on a national expansion, when I was trying to go bigger, that the need and necessity for the marketing, if I could do it different, I would have built faster than I have, because I would have implemented marketing and some of the things that I'm doing now early on. So I would highly suggest that as well. But
If you know, you know.
if you know, you know. And once you know, you can't forget. I can't take it
Right?
from you. So yeah, they can't take
Exactly.
it from you. But still, even that being said, we implement Wicked Colors, for example, and it's things that ideologies I use across multiple companies. I actually have a department that handles social media now, and we have reoccurring. We maintain all our social media posts. I'm not talking about specific project ones, but informative Friday post. These are all scheduled out as far as we can get them, and if we have it built out annually on a spreadsheet, and I know exactly what's being posted. I have somebody who's posting it from the page. You can't downplay the value of social media. It is a huge asset and resource, and it costs you nothing to have it. And depending on how well you use it and maintain it, it can really cost you a fraction of your overall overhead annually to maintain momentum and exposure for your company. It's a huge resource.
Absolutely. And then with the fact that you're so involved in not only business development, so that goes back. Obviously, social media is huge, but also with a company that's truly involved in their community and in business, like you partake in so many different things. You recently started a nonprofit, right?
Yeah, so it was, I think, November of 24.
Okay.
We actually founded it. I want to say Dad's House Inc. is an organization that's a nonprofit 501(c)(3) in the state of Kentucky, and we have several initiatives that we pursue. We have initiatives on suicide prevention, military veterans initiatives. We partner with other nonprofit organizations and community outreach organizations, not just in Kentucky, but on a national basis as well. Our primary focus on the primary initiative that we're pursuing is business development for youth ages 18 to 21, who may not have the opportunity otherwise, and
Okay.
that Dad's House Inc., the board, the national board, and soon to be subsidiary chapters in other states are all comprised of business owners. We're all fighting the same battles. We're offering resources that we have to Dad's House Inc. in order to provide a progressive ownership model for business development, and what that looks like, just in a quick snapshot. Anybody can check us out on Facebook or social media, and the web at dadshouseinc.com for more info. Our main focus on the progressive ownership side is we're partnering with youth 18 to 21, whether they're phasing out of the foster home, whether it's a juvenile who's been through the court system, and he's on that brink, he's on that cusp of either making it or not making it, or a military veteran, has served his country. Maybe he's wounded, maybe he's not, and we're offering the opportunity to partner with Dad's House over a 5-year term. So on year one, they would retain 10% of that business ownership. On year two, it's 20%. On year three, it's 30%. On year four, it's 40%. On year five, Dad's House relinquishes 100% ownership of that company back to the person we partnered with originally. So
That
we're
is awesome.
we think so, and we're
Yeah, that
covering.
is awesome. So are you so you're saying that this is business owners are participating in this. So are they mentoring the young adults who are
Yeah.
starting these businesses, and are they helping them to establish the SOPs and establish their business practices, understanding accounting, understanding what to look at in a P&L, that type
Yep.
of stuff?
So
That is incredible.
for example, and I've always been a firm believer in giving back to the community for years now. Come I've had a standing offer in Clarksville, Tennessee that, any high school age graduate kid that's interested in doing a mowing company or a small business, I would, for example, I would supply the trailer and the equipment and work out a loan process, 0% interest, and have you pay it back over the growth of the company as it's making money, not inhibiting at all, but to teach these fundamental processes. We have a company that's recently been started. It's funny. It's the Turd Platoon. So it's a company it removes pet waste, right? So
Yeah,
it's a
yeah, yeah,
small
yeah.
company, and the CEO of the company is 18 years old. He's a young kid, but so just to give you a glimpse at what we're doing on the Dad's House side, we got everything from social media, Facebook pages. We have um, SOPs, operating agreements, accounting. We're covering all the bases, creating invoices, client interactions, dedicated office line. And you have huge resources from business owners that are doing this every day as a career. On multiple fronts. It's a trial by fire. There's no better way to
Yeah.
teach them.
No, I mean, it's like you said, where the rubber meets the road. You can sit there and read about it in the book, and you can write it down all day long, but until you actually get engaged and get in there, you're not gonna really, feel the fruit. You're not gonna be able to grow that fruit. So, that's awesome, man. I would love to learn a little bit more about this. So we'll talk
Absolutely.
off site on
Please.
how I can partake. Um,
Anytime.
but we also, I understand that you are a huge networker, and that's really how you got a lot of momentum from your business. Can you talk about the power of networking and kind of share a moment where a single connection kind of changed the trajectory of your business?
Man, it's such a value every day, every day. Identifying the networking value started early on, I guess, with the general contracting. Back in those days, when I first started pursuing the general contracting. I'm sorry,
Yeah,
I
if
don't
you
know if you
need,
can
grab
hear
it,
that.
grab it, grab it.
No,
Yeah.
it's the doorbell camera.
Oh,
Yeah, we're good. So back in those days, we were predominantly concrete construction oriented. That was our primary scope of service, and pushing into a commercial general contracting front in a local area, and your competition is companies that have been around for quite some time. And you're trying to be competitive, so you're looking at, how do I adjust my numbers? My overhead allows me to be competitive within this market and this type of scope, and I have good quality subcontractor resources within this field, so I'm going to focus primarily on pursuing these types of jobs. And you're doing all that, but the networking, in response to your networking, the the pivotal moment where I identified how important that was at the general contracting time, and building relationships with subcontractors. In regards, as far as Wicked Kolors is concerned, it's been instrumental in the growth and expansion. And again, it's one of those things that you can't look at it at with the value of the short term immediate dollar. I've spent a lot of money, time, and energy over the past 6, 7 years with Wicked Kolors. For example, at one time, I was closely associated with a master distributor supplier within the industry. And we've since gone our separate ways for several reasons, growth and development. Sometimes relationships that are good today, are good for business today, are not always good for business tomorrow. And
right.
it doesn't have to be disparaging or negative. There's a human factor. You're dealing with entities, two entities doing business. You got a lot of personalities, and it's for one reason or another, you go separate ways, and hopefully it's for the betterment of both of you.
Right.
Um, so I spent a substantial amount of time traveling the country doing trainings for the concrete coatings and restoration industry, and these were cheap trainings, and I think at one time we hit 13 locations in 2 weeks, so we were back-to-back traveling, and this is
Wow.
multi-state. We were literally arriving, performing a training, for 2 days, and then we'd drive overnight, into a different state to have the
Right.
next one the next day. 2-week period, we hit 13 locations in 6 states or something like that. It was craziness.
No sleep
Um,
till Brooklyn, right?
yeah, but we did it for free was the point. So we offered it for
Wow.
free, and then, the networking, the ability to network, the value of opportunity in that, and the relationships that I gained, some of which I have long-term, in some cases, confidential relationships with,
Yeah.
the silent partnerships. I have long-term relationships with some people that I've met over the years in doing that, that have evolved and carried fruit that I never would have imagined. So the
But
networking
you
is
planted
huge.
those seeds like years ago,
Oh,
right? And then they
100%.
finally come into fruition,
Yep.
right?
It's the
That's
importance of
huge.
networking and not burning bridges. It all goes hand in hand because you never know. The factors on the battlefield today are going to change tomorrow, undoubtedly. And you never know. You never know. Oh,
Yeah.
networking's huge.
Yeah, absolutely. So I want to switch gears again and talk about the creative. And that always comes down with, there's always risk in being creative. How far do you take it, right? What's the boldest and creative or business risk that you've ever taken, and how did it turn out?
Eh, I think that's a good one. It's a good one. I think
I
Wicked
try,
Colors.
man. I really
Yeah,
do.
yeah. Wi- I think Wicked Colors as a whole. I think one of the most important things to note is Wicked Kolors brand has generated a lot of notoriety with custom installs, right? It was one of the things that spearheaded the explosive expansion and the notoriety and the networking and all of the things that cultivated from a the humble success that Wicked Colors has achieved, right? Um, is most definitely a result initially from notoriety derived from custom applications. One of the most difficult things, if I could go back and do it all over, I and it's a catch-22. I don't wanna say that I have regrets because it got me
Yeah,
to this point. There's been so many
of course.
opportunities because of it. But if I
But
could
you
have
also
tweaked.
have the perspective. You have
Right,
perspective now,
right.
right?
If I could have tweaked it, I would've. We've always pursued residential, commercial, and industrial applications from day one, from inception. The notoriety that we generated, was spearheaded by the custom side. So I pushed it and I carried it and I used it for all it was worth, but I could have done it different and I should have done it different in my opinion. I should have carried the commercial and industrial applications with me more.
Yeah,
Um, because although the custom side is good money in it, it's a good sense of satisfaction from a creative mind as an installer.
yeah.
It's very, very, very difficult to scale.
Right. I
When
mean,
you're
you've formed a beautiful niche that you are extremely known for, but when
Yes.
people are thinking of a commercial application, they're like, "Oh, Isaiah focuses on these creative things. We don't need that quite yet.
Yep.
Let's just focus on the
A hundred,
basics."
100%. So
Yeah.
I probably lost opportunity on work because of that. Being associated too much with that niche.
Yeah.
Um, but also the scalability within your teams internally, whether it be nationally, whether it be locally, whether you have 5 teams, 2 teams that work out of your shop, or you're a national franchise type of thing that you have installers all over the country. The scalability of custom applications is extremely difficult, and
Yeah.
the level of skill set may not be any more than with a standard application, but it's the level of creativity
Right.
that you sacrifice. So it's
Yeah.
it's a catch-22.
Yeah, that makes sense. You talk about this national growth. Can you talk to us about your mission? What is your mission right now for Wicked?
I think first and foremost, bringing some of the morality into it on the front end and then kicking it towards the money, which drives a lot of stuff, but
Yeah.
I think that my mission, um right now is creating a security, not only for myself, but for my family. And I'm I'm a real bubble kind of guy, and I have my immediate family and my children and my girlfriend, and that's my primary focus. But it's the security for everybody who chooses to do business with me. You know, I take a
You're
high
talking
level.
about legacy, right?
Exactly. So
I
I
love
think
it,
that's
man.
the primary mission. I think when it comes to Wicked Colors specifically and where we're trying to go, I think we've been we've been building for the past several years a national affiliated network of like-minded contractors who, you know, we have shared buying power, we have shared training applications. We It's a collective of legitimate coatings companies throughout the industry that all see things kind of eye to eye, and the shared resources is a huge value. And continuation and implementation of lead generation on a national scale. I think that for those who know Wicked Colors and are following and continue to follow, I would expect to see us implementing a lot within major cities throughout the country. We've been back building and introducing additional service offerings that can run parallel and consistent and be complementary to our SOPs and our standard systems of operations now. I would think that over the next several years, we're looking to triple, quadruple what we're doing now. Not only in the coatings world, but complementing that with additional services, and expanding our network. So, we've got a lot of good things coming, and it's all positive. Sometimes the back building's the hardest part, you know, because it's behind the scenes and you don't get the sense of value because it's not there yet.
Yeah.
We've got a
But you're
lot of
laying the
good things coming.
foundation, man. You're laying
100%.
the so let's talk about, I'm a big goal setter.
Yes,
I
sir.
believe in setting your goals. Every year I go and I'm like, all right, what's that legacy goal that I'm going after? Like that freaking quantum leap goal where you're like, if I hit that, I'm the man, right? So do
Yes,
you
sir.
have a process that you use
Um
for goal setting and how do you track that?
I do. I do have a process, and it might be different than the average person.
That's what I'm
Yeah.
hoping. I want to
So
know. I want to peel back the
yeah,
layers.
I hope it is too. You know, and maybe it can help somebody. So I don't. I've touched on a couple times that I do my very best not to focus on the money. If I focus on the money too much, I get stressed out. I get overwhelmed. I start asking why I'm doing what I'm doing when I focus on the money. So I've attempted to build habits over the past 10 years of building a continuation of life. So my main focus and my priorities, and identifying success within myself is achieving those securities. So, for example, I might establish a company tomorrow that has the sole intention to cover a specific need somewhere. The profits derived from this particular company, I know, will continue to pay property taxes on 4 different properties for the duration of its
Its
existence,
existence.
right?
Yeah.
The purpose of that little move that I'm articulating is simply to cover this box or check these boxes. And now I know I have a system that can continue indefinitely. Now I know that I have that box checked. Now I know that if I stopped working tomorrow or I couldn't work tomorrow, God forbid, I don't have to worry about that problem. So when I'm building and that legacy you're talking about, it's my primary focus and me feeling like I'm there, I'll have all those boxes checked. It's not a matter of dollar bills, it's a matter of security in a machine. I'm
Love
simply
it.
building a machine.
So let me break that down a little bit. So you are probably setting up certain milestones, those milestones being, you know, uh, certain things that are self-managing, right?
Yes, sir.
And so as you hit those goals, you're like, all right, cool, this one's in check. I'm good on that one, right? And so are there timelines that you're giving yourself to hit those certain milestones?
Uh Yeah, I do. So I set weekly goals, daily goals. I set 2-year goals, 5-year goals. I have a 20-year goal. I got goals for after I'm gone, right? It's
Yeah,
just I live my life that way. And it's crazy. I think that everybody has a different sense of success. You know, what success means to you is different than what it means to me. It might not be nothing's right or wrong in my opinion. It's what suits you. Um, so the reality is, in a lot of ways, if I stop and think about it, I've surpassed any milestone that I ever would have thought that I could have. So, um, the reality is, Andrew, that we're just living life and we're having a good time while we do it. You know,
that's
I'm
it.
in a position that my kids are going to be better off if I died tomorrow. Um, and I think that anything from here is extra, you know?
Yeah,
So it
100%.
I think we've already
100%.
surpassed them in a, "Hey, what would I like to see happen?" I would everybody wants to be a Rockefeller, you know? I would like to I would like to be that. Will is it a
Exactly.
reality?
I'm
Maybe
aiming for
not, you know?
Jay-Z
Hey,
myself.
hey, I'll take that too. I'll take it. I'll take that too, but
So I know, dude, I know we are like over a little bit. I got 2 more
100%.
questions for you. Super easy, super
Yes,
easy.
sir.
What podcast do you listen to?
Um, so there's a couple of them, and I'm one of those guys that appreciates the podcast opportunities. But I catch them when they're sent to me, right? So I
Yeah.
build relationships and guys that we have these types of conversations like, and they'll think about me when they hear one. So as far as one that I follow, I don't, but I can assure you I'll be following Be Kind Local.
Oh, I love it, man. I love it. Thanks for that shameless plug.
Yeah,
Uh,
hey, I'm with it, baby. I'm with it. You open the
um,
door, I'm gonna walk through it. You know what I mean?
I love it. All right,
Yeah.
so is there a book that you have read that you feel has impacted you in the way that you look at business?
Oh, absolutely. I've always been an avid reader. Machiavelli the Prince.
Mm,
So not only in business, but more so from the how to win friends and influence people
yeah,
from the art of war, Sun Tzu perspective. It's applicable in so many instances and successful business, in my opinion, or business in general is all relationships. It's all personalities. It's all
right.
how do I talk to somebody? It's all leverage, right? Whether you're
Yeah,
the type of business owner that's leveraging in a conducive, positive way for everybody at the table, or you're underhanded. It's business is built on leverage, and what value do you have? Me and you are partners. What value do you have, Andrew? What value do I have? And you're leveraging your value, and I'm leveraging, and you're gonna get your 50% of the company based off of your leverage. So, yeah, Machiavelli the Prince is one of many. I've always been a reader since I was young, so that's it's a little dry, especially this day and
yeah.
age, you know.
But,
Um,
I mean, hey, I'm looking for nuggets that is gonna help to propel our audience to,
yep,
your level of success,
yep.
humbly
So
speaking.
and all of that, the art of war and the 48 laws of power, it tends to put into a street perspective a lot of ideologies that have been utilized for years and military applications
Yeah,
and you know it theologies and things like that, you know, and
yeah.
driving success in team interactions. So
One thing that I wanted to kinda go back on, I know I said I was only gonna ask you 2 more
hey,
questions, but,
no worries.
you mentioned, supporting the veterans. I was wondering, where does your affinity come for that group of folk?
Um, I'll be honest with you. I'll be totally transparent, and it's one of those things I don't have a whole lot in my life that I'm ashamed of. Very few things that I regret. And a whole lot of things that I paid the price to learn some lessons. So, I spent a good chunk of my time incarcerated as an adult in the state of Tennessee prison system. For a violent offense, and I paid my time. I paid for it in full. Um, so while I was there, I spent 10 years incarcerated in the Tennessee prison system for attempted murder, you know, just to be totally transparent. Um, so throughout that term, the collaboratory brotherhood of that time, you know, being incarcerated with other guys that are good guys, good quality
Yeah,
people, you know, they're just in there for a mistake or whatever. And um, but good quality people. Some of the best people I ever met in my life are still incarcerated, never coming home. You know, it's
yeah,
a common misconception that you get on that side of the fence and people are different. And it's just me and
yeah,
you in there, man. It's just me and you in there.
100%,
So
100%.
I have no military background, but I'm very much aware of uh a heightened sense of awareness that's required in a forward area. I've seen combat in a primitive sense. You know, it's sword
Yeah,
fighting in there. It's not you're not shooting AR-15s.
right.
It's a
You're
more
still
much
trying to survive.
it's combat any way you
Yeah,
slice it. So the camaraderie has always I've always been highly in tune to the military's camaraderie amongst their brotherhood and their sisterhood and I can really relate to those people, and military veterans in particular. I've had some really good conversations, and you know, I don't have a military background, but they have a very, very high capability of seeing eye to eye with me on certain things, and the correlations and parallels to between um, extended prison time and serving in forward areas and combat situations for the military. There's a lot of parallels that I find, and I've had some really good moments morally, that soul building stuff.
Yeah.
So I have a passion there in addition to the obvious. I mean, where I'm sitting here talking to you on a podcast because of the
Yeah.
service and the sacrifice. So if
Yeah.
anybody can't get
100%.
behind that, I don't know what to tell you. You know what I
100%.
mean?
100%. I love it, man. This has been incredible. And so just to be quite frank, I've only gotten through half of the questions that I wanted to ask you. So we're going to
I'm
have
sorry.
to.
I'm
We're
sorry, Andrew. I get
No, no, no.
long-winded, man. I
No,
get
no, no,
long-winded.
no. That
Yeah.
is a compliment. This has
Okay,
been
good.
engaging. This has been amazing. And dude, like you are someone that can get behind. And
I
everything that
appreciate
you
it.
stand behind, I can get behind. And I want everybody to follow you. Where can we find you?
So it's funny you say that. We were just talking about the value of social media. So, and then and checking boxes, you know, on
Right.
level of success. So I've recently removed myself from Facebook and personal social media. All our
Okay.
businesses are still thriving and managed, and I'm still available personally on LinkedIn. Right, you can
Okay.
find me there. You can support the businesses, so I'm available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. You know, I don't take a. I'm a higher level personality type.
Yeah.
Any at Wicked Colors, reach out to Wicked Colors. Tell them you want to holler at me personally. I'll be in touch. I
Cool.
promise.
And I will post all of the socials for Wicked Colors there. If there's a concrete coating company that was interested in partnering with you with Wicked Colors, what's the process look like?
Simply reach out.
That's it.
Yep. Over the years, you know, we have a same way I tell we as Wicked Colors cultivate with our clients. You know, we've never met a realistic budget that we can't work with, and in business, I've never met an individual that has a certain, you know, certain level of morality and those types of givens that I can't do business with. We have solutions for everything. So I do business the
Yeah,
same way. You know, if you're a coatings company that's interested in evolving, maybe you're an existing coatings company that knows Wicked Colors and you're interested in furthering a national footprint, or maybe you got opportunities, or you know that I have opportunities you're interested in. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. That's what makes the world spin.
I love it, man. Any parting words of wisdom for us?
Um, I don't know about the wisdom. So from the humble perspective, I will close with extreme gratitude. Um, you know, we made it through half of your questions, and the minute you said that, I had like 20 things pop up that I wanted to say, and I had all this, but no, this has been great, and I just genuinely, Andrew, I am sincerely, enthusiastically grateful for the opportunity. You checked a lot of boxes for me today, and honestly, just having the one-on-one conversation and like-minded individuals, it's been great.
Dude, it's been
I'm
amazing.
huge
Absolutely.
supporter. Anything that Wicked Colors can, obviously we'll share the podcast, but I assure you, I'm behind you in more ways than one. You know, you got things
Awesome.
going outside of the Be Kind Local, the marketing companies, and
Yeah,
I know your efforts on those sides and what it takes to provide the level of service that you do. So I'm a huge fan
I
of
appreciate
yours.
it, man.
If you need me, if you need anything, business or personal, 24-hour a day shop, open 7 days a week for you.
I love it, man. I really appreciate you. Thank you so much. Hey guys, we are out. This has been a banger. And I think that's what the kids are saying now. Or are
Yeah.
they saying like what, 6, 7, something?
Something. I can't keep up with it anymore. I can't
All
keep
right,
up with
brother.
it.
I
Andrew,
appreciate
thank
you. I'll see you
bro.
on the other side.
Yes, sir.
That's how we roll. Say what? Serving up systems to spark your soul.